Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be episode 251 for you guys today. And to kick off this week's episode, I'll be sharing my NFL winners and losers thus far of NFL free agency. So in this segment, I have 4 winners and 2 losers thus far in NFL free agency. Starting off with winner number 1, that would be the New York Giants. Now, I do believe that the New York Giants are winners of the NFL offseason thus far. As a Dallas Cowboys fan, I got to put my unbiasedness to the side. I think the New York Giants are having a fantastic NFL offseason thus far. It seems like a lot of players are buying into the stock of John Harbaugh, what he could possibly bring to the table in New York. This is a former Super Bowl champion in his time spent with the Baltimore Ravens, and they're looking to turn things around quickly in the NFC East. They made some marquee moves. I mean, they signed Isaiah Likely at the tight end position. I think that's an upgrade for them in their tight end room. They also got an upgrade at the linebacker position after they released Bobby Okereke. They signed Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker. They also signed Darnell Mooney at wide receiver after they lost Wan'Dale Robinson, who had a 1,000-yard receiving year last year when he left in free agency, signed with the Tennessee Titans. They also brought in Calvin Austin, a pretty decent wide receiver that played for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. They also bought in former Baltimore Ravens player Pat Ricard at the fullback position. They brought in Greg Newsome at the cornerback position, a renewed rivalry between himself and George Pickens from their time spent in the AFC North when Pickens was with the Steelers and Newsome was with the Browns. But yeah, they are building quickly around their young players in New York, around their young quarterback in Jackson Dart that's looking to have a strong sophomore season. They're going to have Cam Scatterbo back in the backfield. He'll be coming back from his ankle injury. They'll have Malik Nabers coming back from a torn ACL injury. And they still have the 5th overall pick heading into 2026 NFL Draft. So they can get some outstanding players from Ohio State. I'm looking at Sony Edwards at the linebacker position, one of the best players in the NFL Draft. Or they could go and get Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. So honestly, I'm jealous of what the New York Giants are doing as a Dallas Cowboys fan. They have had one hell of an offseason. I got to consider them winners thus far. Now, I know I said 4 winners, but I'm going to combine this into 5 winners somewhat. But 2 winners here on this list. This would be the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. I do consider both of them to be winners. Now, I do believe that the Ravens and Raiders are winners of NFL free agency thus far, based off of the turn of events that happened between these 2 franchises last week with the Max Crosby deal. Now, last week, I had a live reaction with the host of the Run podcast, Manny Wilson, when I had him on the show when the trade was reversed between the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. When the Ravens canceled their trade for Max Crosby, they sent Max Crosby back to Vegas, and the Baltimore Ravens received their 2 first-round picks for 2026 and 2027 back. And I think this is a win for both teams because the Ravens get their 2 first-round picks. They were about to surrender their 26 and 27 first-round picks to acquire Max Crosby, a top 5 edge rusher when healthy in the National Football League. But the following day, they signed Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson was the best edge rusher. That was an unrestricted free agent on the market. They signed him to a good deal. And they get one of the best edge rushers the best edge rusher on the market. And they still keep their 2 first-round picks. Then you look at it for the Las Vegas Raiders standpoint. Yeah, they don't get the 2 first-round picks for their future to turn things around quickly, but they still kept intact and remained. All the free agents moves still remained intact because they still kept Nakobe Dean that they signed in free agency at the linebacker position, Quay Walker, Tyler Linderbaum, who was the best offensive lineman on the market. They kept him in free agency, and several others. So for now, they plan to keep Max Crosby. And like I just said, Max Crosby is a top 5 edge rusher in the National Football League. You plan to keep him with all the pieces that you brought in during NFL free agency. And you still have the number 1 overall pick. You're clearly going to draft Fernando Mendoza to be your next franchise quarterback. So I think this is a win-win for both teams. So I consider both of them winners somewhat for NFL free agency thus far. Ooh, this one's one of my favorites. Winner would be an individual player. This winner is Kyler Murray. Now, I do believe that Kyler Murray is a winner in NFL free agency. He just landed in the best spot available for him during NFL free agency. He just signed a 1-year contract to be the Minnesota Vikings' next starting quarterback, possibly for next NFL season. And this is a low-risk, high reward for the Minnesota Vikings. So they're signing Kyler Murray on a 1-year deal, a veteran minimum deal. So a low risk, high reward. You get Kyler Murray, that's a veteran that's been a part of the NFL since 2019. You're throwing in him into your offensive system with Kevin O'Connell, in my opinion, one of the best offensive play callers in the league. And he's going to be joining an outstanding cast offensively once he joins the Minnesota Vikings. And this is a chance for Kyler Murray to rewrite his wrongs. Like, he did everything, or he wanted to do everything possible to bring success to the Arizona Cardinals. Did not do that. Never won a playoff game with them. He wanted to bring a Super Bowl to Arizona. Did not get that goal done. But he has battled through several injuries over the years. That's why he's been inactive. That's why he's missed a lot of time. But he never got to the level people thought he could be at, considered to be a top 10, top 5, possible top 5 quarterback in the National Football League when he was the former first overall pick in the 2019 draft, former Heisman Trophy winner when he was at Oklahoma in college. But now Kyler Murray gets to have a similar story to what other quarterbacks are having in the National Football League. I'm talking about Sam Darnold, that turned his football career around when he left the Jets and then went elsewhere. We know the story, 14-3 with the Minnesota Vikings, 14-3 with the Seahawks, won the Super Bowl this year. Baker Mayfield, how he turned things around. Geno Smith, how he turned things around, minus that Las Vegas Raiders season this year. But this is another chance for Kyler Murray to prove to everyone why he's a good quarterback in the National Football League. He's not a bust, and sometimes quarterbacks need different changes of scenery to prove that they are a good player in the National Football League. And I think he could thrive in Kevin O'Connell's offense as a dual threat quarterback. He can make plays with his arm, make plays with his leg. And like I just said, Kevin O'Connell's going to love that in his offensive system. And there's weapons everywhere. There's no excuses if Kyler Murray cannot ball out in Minnesota, because you got Justin Jefferson, a top 3 wide receiver in the league. You got Jordan Addison, who can arguably be a number 1 wide receiver elsewhere in the National Football League. You got TJ Hockenson, in my opinion, one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. So the Vikings, to me, it seems like they are admitting they were wrong for letting Sam Darnold walk around this time last year in free agency after they went 14-3. They banked on J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is clearly not the answer for them. And I feel like they are now admitting they are wrong, because you wouldn't bring in Kyler Murray for someone that was drafted in the top 15 in the 2024 NFL draft. And now J.J. McCarthy looks like he's going to be a backup quarterback. And J.J. McCarthy, I said it last year on the podcast, seemed like the game was too fast for him. And the only outstanding games, of course, he had against my Dallas Cowboys, that historically bad defense. I mean, you could throw in the Monday night opener win on the road against the Chicago Bears and the win against the Detroit Lions. Other than those 3 games, there's nothing that really rave about J.J. McCarthy's previous NFL season. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Minnesota Vikings went in this direction to sign Kyler Murray to a low-risk, possible high-reward deal to bring him into Minnesota. So I think Kyler Murray is a winner of NFL free agency. Next winner, the Denver Broncos. Now, I honestly was going to consider them losers, because prior to today's move, they did nothing in NFL free agency. I thought they were going to go with the route of running it back and not bringing in any key NFL free agents, but I was wrong. Today, they traded for Jalen Waddle, and they now have their new explosive number 1 wide receiver coming to Denver. Now, Bo Nix gets another good offensive target. They already have Cortland Sutton on the outside. Now he gets a new tag team partner in Jalen Waddle. That's a really good route runner. He has the speed, the athleticism to make dynamic plays. We've seen that when he did that in Miami, playing alongside Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa and company. Now he's going to take his talents to Denver, Colorado, to ball out with this Denver Broncos offense. And I think this trade was worth it. I mean, they gave up a first-round pick this year, a 3rd and 4th round pick for this year. I think that's worth it, because you're getting a home run selection, getting Jalen Waddle to be a part of your offense. And this is going to help the Denver Broncos stay at the top of the AFC West, in my opinion, and stay at the top of the AFC Conference. And they still have that outstanding defense, so they could definitely go on another run next year. And think about it, guys. The Broncos were realistically 1 injury away from possibly going to the Super Bowl. We know Bo Nix got hurt in the final sequences in the divisional round against the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. We don't know, honestly, what would have happened if he was healthy, ready to go to play against the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship. But now the Broncos, you look at it, they get the final laugh against the Miami Dolphins. You can go back years and years ago when we were calling the Miami Dolphins that track star offense, how much talent and speed and athleticism they had when they blew out the Denver Broncos by a score of 70-20 a few years ago. Now the Broncos get the final laugh, take the best remaining player away from the Miami Dolphins roster and bring him to Denver. I think this was a great trade for the Denver Broncos. I'm going to consider them winners of NFL free agency thus far. And now the two losers that I mentioned. Starting off with loser, the team I just mentioned, the Miami Dolphins. I think the Miami Dolphins are losers here because, guys, what the hell is the overall plan for the Miami Dolphins here? Now, I know when it's time to wave the white flag, retreat, rebuild, and then come back in a few years. But what the hell is the plan in Miami? Like, you replaced Tua Tagovailoa, you released him, he signed with the Atlanta Falcons last week, and you bring in Malik Willis. Now, I like the move for Malik Willis, but overall, I get the move. I think Malik Willis showed a lot of upside, backing up Jordan Love with as dual threat abilities. But at the end of the day, what was really the point of releasing Tua Tagovailoa that you're still paying a high volume on in the books for him next year to bring in Malik Willis? And I'm looking at this roster. There is several holes in this roster. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick for a bag of chips, a half-open bag of potato chips. They let Bradley Chubb walk in NFL free agency. They released Tyreek Hill. You just traded Jalen Waddle. Yeah, you got some good draft compensation, but you just traded away your best remaining player. Because now I'm looking at this team. This team did not solve any problems in NFL free agency. They just made things more complicated. The rebuild is going to be even more difficult. And there's a long list of holes to be filled in this Miami Dolphins roster. Like, everywhere, there's a hole, basically. Wide receiver, tight end. I mean, you still got running back Devon Achane, but in the words of Bill Goldberg in wrestling, you're next to be traded. The defense is just a mess. There's nothing here for the Miami Dolphins. And then now I'm looking at their wide receiver core. Like, they have Jalen Tolbert, who they just got from the Dallas Cowboys. He's decent. Pretty solid route runner as a Dallas Cowboys fan. Tutu Atwell, Malik Washington. This has to be the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League. Definitely got to consider the Dolphins losers. And last but not least, the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks, are losers for NFL free agency thus far because they're on the list because of what they failed to replace in NFL free agency. Not based off what they lost, but what they failed to replace. That's why I consider the Seattle Seahawks losers. And the Super Bowl champions let a lot of talent walk out of the door. Starting off with Kenneth Walker. I don't understand why they didn't even use a franchise tag on Kenneth Walker, why they let him test the market, and he was gone in a blink of an eye for NFL free agency. He signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to love him and Andy Reid's offense next year. But I don't understand that. I think that's a huge blow for the Seattle Seahawks offense. And I honestly think that Kenneth Walker is the better overall running back between himself and Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet is going to be coming back from a torn ACL injury that he suffered in a divisional round against the San Francisco 49ers. There is no short-term plan right now at the running back position until Zach Charbonnet comes back from injury. Yeah, there's still the NFL draft, but the way how the Seattle Seahawks were moving up and down the field is because they were run-first offense with the 1-2 punches of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet last year. And the Seattle Seahawks also lost Rick Woolen in NFL free agency. He signed to the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost him in their secondary. And what will the offense look like after losing their offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, their former offensive coordinator? Because remember, the day after they won the Super Bowl, he agreed to become the next Las Vegas Raiders head coach. So you're losing talent. You lost one of the best play callers in the league. The offense was a run-first offense last year under Clint Kubiak. And that's why they were a top-tier offense scoring points up and down the field. They were a run-first approach, and that opened the door for play-action looks for Sam Darnold to go down the field to find his offensive targets like Jackson Smith, the Jingba, Cooper Kupp, and several others a part of that offense. Now you don't have a serviceable running back until Zach Charbonnet comes back from his torn ACL injury. Maybe he comes back before training camp. Maybe he comes back before week 1. But there is no actual timetable for Zach Charbonnet's return. I think the Seattle Seahawks are losers here because it's based off of not what you lost, but what you failed to replace after what you lost. So there's still time, but those are my NFL winners and losers of NFL free agency thus far.